Welcome to the Shetland Times podcast. I'm your host, Thor Holt, and before we meet today's guest, please do remember we'd love to get your suggestions for who you would like to hear on the show. Go to shetlandtimes.co.uk and use the contact there to get in touch, or go to the Facebook page and let us know who you'd love to hear. Today's guest is Jenna Reid. Jenna is a fiddler. She was nominated as Best Instrumentalist at the 2007 Scots Traditional Awards. Born and brought up in Quarff, of course. Now, apparently there's a story around her, a kind of romantic story around her starting playing at age 9, but I did find it on Wikipedia, so I'm going to ask her for the truth in a minute. Jenna's discography includes With Silver and All, 2005, The Laughing Girl, 2008, Morning Moon, 2012, Escape, 2012, and there's a book of her music, I believe, is called The Quarff Collections, 2014, and Live in Shetland, 2015. Jenna was taught by some of the great names in Shetland fiddling. Tom Anderson, MBE, Willie Hunter. She's played all over the world with groups such as, I'll get some of these names wrong, so apologies, Filska, Deaf Shepherd, and Dochas. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Jenna Reid. So hey Jenna, could you tell me that story then of how you first got involved with playing the fiddle? Let's see if the Wikipedia entry was accurate.
I know. I don't know who even wrote that. It wasn't me.
Honest, it wasn't you. You didn't write your own Wikipedia entry.
Tell you how to do that. I'm not joking. Well, yeah, I did start when I was 9. My brother and sister were already had just really started lessons as well. So I got to go along as well to Islesborough Community Centre, where everybody would go up the stairs and wait outside in the kind of foyer bit. And Tom Anderson's lessons would take place there. And you had quite a short fiddle lesson, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And then that was on a Saturday morning. So that I was 9 then. And like you said, the fiddle that I was playing at the time had come out of my grandmother's loft in Ayrshire. I think there was just a mixture of instruments that happened to be within her family, and this was one of them that hadn't been chucked out, so it got kind of done up, and new fingerboard and all these sorts of things, soundpost, and so it was great. And I played it for years until I was 27, I think, and my sister plays it now, and I changed and bought a new instrument since then. But yeah,
brilliant. So that fiddle though, you didn't find the fiddle first and then just start playing it. You were already taking lessons, is that right?
Yeah. I had a different fiddle for a really short time, and then this one appeared.
Darn
because we were doing lessons. So it's not the romantic story of going through a loft and finding an instrument and thinking, oh, this is just for me, and I'll do this. And
so what did inspire you then? What did inspire you to start, do you think?
Well, I think I just wanted to do what my brother and sister were doing, and we were already all playing the piano, so that was going on with all of us anyway. And Mum played the piano as well, so she could accompany us, and yeah, really quickly became something that we kind of did as a family. And then once you get into it and start enjoying it, after quite a short time with Tom Anderson, I went to Willie Hunter for lessons, and I went to him privately and in primary school. He started coming out to our primary in Quarff, which meant I could go for a lesson within school time, and I was just in awe of him anyway, so it was an amazing turning point. And then a private lesson as well, and then on to high school. So I had lessons with him throughout high school as well. So, and I think at the time I was listening to bands like Capercaillie and Runrig and Ali Bain tapes and music like that my folks listened to. Mm-hmm. So I loved all of that and tried to play along with it. Learnt tunes from Ali's playing, and rewinding and playing until you could learn it. And yeah, so I guess I was just kind of really taken by it and enjoyed it. And then we joined the Shetland Fiddler Society, so that's a great place for young folk to be going to, because it's just doors open, anybody can go, any standard. And so that was every Wednesday night, and you just learned hundreds of tunes, hundreds of Shetland tunes, which meant your repertoire was really healthy. And then when you were a bit older, you might sit in on a dance band gig at home, or and then we would be out playing at the folk festival or the box and fiddle festival. And the more you did and stuff within school as well, then more kind of little opportunities came along to go out and play. And then things like this, just like any hobby, it really starts to blossom and you do as much as you can, or it falls away and it's something that you're not so into. But I ended up leaving school and coming to Glasgow to study at what was known as the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, but it's now the Royal Scottish Conservatoire. So that was a long time ago. So I did my 4 years there and just stayed in Glasgow ever since, more or less. And met loads of lovely musicians whilst I was studying, and met a great group of girls that ended up being a band I played with called Dochas. And it was great because we were all that age of being in uni or just leaving uni. So we did a lot of touring together in our sort of early 20s, and it was really good times and lovely concerts and great experiences. And so, yeah, I think just being in among it all in Glasgow, you kind of naturally meet folk, and there's probably more opportunities, arguably, or more chances to meet more people and play more music, or as much as you want to.
Can I take you back, Jenna, to the childhood when you began it? You know what it reminds me of? I once heard Judy Murray interviewed, and she was talking about Andy and Jamie, her sons, who obviously have both become phenomenal tennis players. And a lot of people, especially a couple of years ago, were accusing her of being like a pushy parent and pushing them into it and things. And I remember her talking about some day it was like bad weather or they had no money or something, and they ended up at home, and she would always try and find a way to make practice fun, and they would all do it together. And it reminded me of that when you were talking about your whole family kind of doing the music together, because I mean obviously there's a level of discipline involved in sport like tennis or in learning a musical instrument, but if it's fun, I guess that's a pretty key factor.
Yeah, I think if you've got a wee concert to go and do that's coming up, you've got something to work towards. Mm-hmm. I think those sorts of things are great for young people because it's exciting, even if it's, the most insignificant thing. But yeah, I mean, there's no getting away from it. I would have if I could have got away without practicing, I probably would have. You want to come home from school and dump your bag and go outside and run about, go on your bike, and of course we did all those things, but we had to come home and do our practice first. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I think if your parents are making the time and spending the money on 3 of you playing 2 instruments each, because we were doing a lot of that privately, if you're not putting the work in, it's just not going to go anywhere. I see it myself when I'm teaching children. It's you're on the same lesson every week because you're not making any progress. Mm-hmm. And having said that, we were really at an advantage because Mum knew how to read music. She knew how to play the piano. Like if we were playing duff notes, she could tell us. Whereas some children don't have that support network of somebody able to tell them, no, that's not right, because they might practice that in for a full week and come back for their lesson and go, no, we need to fix that. So you now, this is from my research online, but you've mentioned your brother and your sister all play as well. Yeah. Do you play regularly with your sister Bethany? Is that right? Do you still play regularly together? Yeah, we play in a group called Rant, which is a 4-piece, and it's just fiddles. So we're actually doing some concerts at the moment. So last night we were in Pitlochry, and then on Monday we're in Edinburgh, and Tuesday we're in Perth. So Beth and I, she's got a wee one the same age as Ewan. So, and Bethany's a school teacher. So there's a bit of juggling involved, but we've managed to maintain going out and playing gigs with each other, which is what we always did and what we always enjoyed, and I would really miss it if we didn't. So but yeah, so we do that. We do a group called Rant, which is lovely, and done a couple of albums and some tours, and so it's just,
How is that working with your sister? Because I think some people might have assumed there'd be fights with two sisters in close proximity from a young age all the way through. But
yeah, we probably had our moments when we were young. But yeah, no, it's grand. Get on grand. Get on super.
So where are you appearing just now then? Where could somebody see Rant in the next few months? Is it Rant or is it R-A-N-T, as in Rant?
Yeah. So our website is rantfiddles.com. Well, we're in the Traverse Theatre on Monday. We're in Perth Folk Club on Tuesday, which is in the Green Room. And then we're out in April again. We're in the Tall Booth in Stirling. And then we're down in London at... Now, what's it called? Is it King's Place? I can't remember.
Well, don't worry. People can get it from Rant Fiddles. So
yeah,
rantfiddles.com. Not .co.uk, but .com.
No, sorry, it is .co.uk. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. That's why I like to repeat it to you, just to make sure, because you'll hear it and go, wait a minute, that's wrong. So it's rantfiddles.co.uk. People should check out. Superb.
Yeah.
So were you born and brought up in Shetland? Full disclosure, we knew each other when we were wee kids because our parents were friends, but Shetland's that small a place that isn't a particularly unusual thing to happen, no doubt. But you were born and brought up in Shetland, weren't you, Jenna?
Yeah, I was born in 1980 in the Gilbert Bain Hospital, and my folks lived in Lerwick in a flat. And then when I was 2, we went to... No, when Tom was 2 and I was still a baby, we went to Quarff. And Mum and Dad have been there ever since. So 36 years. And they're still there, and we're all obviously down the road, and there's that pool for them, I guess, to come down, but Quarff is always home, so it's difficult to replace. Yeah, we went to the primary school there. It's shut in the 90s, but I had my primary education in Quarff, and then obviously went to the high school. But yeah, when you go home, it doesn't change, but you don't want it to change. It's a great place to go back to and just have a relax and not do very much.
Can you remember any particular story or experience from Shetland from your upbringing?
I just remember there being a really lively sort of feeling and community, and there was always stuff on at weekends. There was always dances. There was always, home bakes and teas. There was something on in the Quarff Hall every weekend, and everybody went there, and it was a dance, and it would just be local musicians that played. All your Christmas parties were there. I don't know that happens as often as it used to. I think it's gone through spells of being busy with various events, and it probably is widely used, but it's a really strong memory from being young and that being quite a kind of centre of the community. That lots of family things on there, and and just long summers and being outside till, it never got dark really in the summertime, but just really long, lovely nights, being out playing and out on your bikes and way running around in the hills and, miles away from home sometimes. But
freedom.
Completely. Yeah, that's it.
Freedom.
It's just like, where else do you get that? I don't know.
How are you going to give you and that kind of freedom in Glasgow? I guess you can take them up to Shetland for the summer.
Yeah, I know. Well, in about a month we're moving house. Our flat at the moment is on the market, and we're moving to we've bought a house in a place called Bridge of Weir, which is in Renfrewshire. It's a really lovely village with all the things that a village has, and a relatively small primary school, and it's rural. I mean, it's only 20 minutes away from here, but it's a big factor in what you decide to do and how you decide to move on in terms of where you live and what's around you, because it's no longer about us only. You yearn after your own upbringing, your own childhood, and that's the only experience you have. And it was, for me, really positive, and so you're trying to recreate that But
you want to recreate it if it was a good, positive experience. I think I've met plenty of people who had a nightmare upbringing and wouldn't want to recreate it, but
yeah, I know. I think it's all to do with your parents, really, and your family, and who's around you and who's influencing you. I think we probably did quite a lot as a family, and like after our fiddle lessons on a Saturday, we'd go and visit my grandfather, my dad's late father, and then,
where was he then, Jenna? Where did he live?
in Lovers Loan, right opposite the high school.
Okay.
Yeah, so he lived there. My granny was from Edinburgh and he was from Caithness, and they were both living in Edinburgh and Ayrshire a little as well. And then they moved up to Shetland when my dad was 8. So my grandfather was a bank manager, so that's how they ended up moving around so much. But he moved their family up to Shetland when Dad was 8, so he had all his schooling at home, and then left Shetland when he was 17, met my mum, and then went back. So that's how that all kind of worked out. But yeah, you know, it's I think just being in Quarff was like just such a close-knit community and really safe and protected. That's the sort of thing that you want to kind of recreate. But there's no harm in you in having a different sort of upbringing. If you stayed in the city, he'd get on grand, I'm sure. But you, I don't know. We just decided not to do that.
So you're from a small community, same as I am. And
yeah.
What about? I've travelled a wee bit with work, but what about travel in terms of your doing gigs? Have you travelled all over the world with that?
Yeah, been really, really fortunate that travelled throughout a lot of Canada, a lot of the States, most European countries, all of Scandinavia, been out to Australia. Yeah, I mean, you don't often see a lot of these places, but you get the opportunity to go perform, and then with that, you're sort of fast-tracked straight into kind of culture. You know, you're not a tourist trying to track it down. You're sort of got an interpreter or with a guide, or now we're going to go to this restaurant, this is lovely, or this is, whatever it is we're going to do. You might only be in the place for one night or 2 nights, but you've got a sense of it and an idea of what it's like there, and maybe we'll go back sometime. And
you've met some locals.
Yeah, that's it.
Which you often don't as a tourist, really. And so
yeah.
I love that. I love that when you said fast-tracked into culture. I thought that would make a good title for this particular podcast episode, because, well, there's probably something about music that fast-tracks you into a culture, isn't there? If you're playing music and then you meet local people who are into music, you kind of are fast-tracking yourself. I love that.
Yeah, it's just like, it's another language, isn't it? You're sort of, they have you out there, they've invited you there, so they know what you're all about in terms of artistically, and you share that kind of enjoyment or pastime or however you want to describe it. But and then you end up going back to these places, and a lot of these promoters you end up knowing quite well, and you're on first name terms with them, and they're just ordinary people that work in an office that run this venue or that festival. But yeah, you build up relations with folk, and they're trusting you and you trust them, and it's all about the product that you're bringing over there. And it happens to be that Shetland and Scottish export such as music is really valuable, and people really want to hear it and want to come out and listen to it. And I don't doubt that being from Shetland has been part of what's carved what I do, because it's all part of a package or a brand, if you want to be quite kind of I don't know, descriptive about it. But yeah, I think it's people kind of, like, Scotland is marketed so well, and so is Shetland. People want to experience that in different ways, and if that's music that's coming out to their venue or their culture, or and it's music that's got a massive history and a massive depth, and you can, everywhere you go, people are interested, and you're talking about playing tunes that are 100 years old, and especially in the States, in Canada, that it's just fascinated by that.
I would get you to play something just now, but I don't want to wake Ewan up because I know he's sleeping somewhere, isn't he?
The wall.
Through the wall. That's not going to happen then.
I know, sorry. But yeah, so it's it's definitely something that excites people.
Does it still excite? Sorry, I was going to say, sorry for interrupting you there. Does it still excite you, or does it start to feel just like a job? I wonder. Maybe you've never really had to do a job, but do you think it still excites you the same way it did when you were a kid playing an event? Is it still exciting when you go to do it, or are you like, oh, jings, I'd rather be at home with my son, or...
Yeah, some nights you think, oh man, I need to get into the zone, or I need to, or I'm tired, or I'm whatever it is. But no, as soon as you go on stage, it's just brilliant. It's a total privilege, apart from anything else. But it's a lot to do with who you work with, I think, too. In the minute that you step out and you play what it is that you play and that you've rehearsed, and the crowd's with you as well, which is a huge factor in how your night goes and how much you enjoy it, because you feed off people. But no, I don't think I could ever say that it's just like, oh, whatever, going through the motions. Like, you might feel like that moments before you go on, but then as soon as you start playing, it's like, oh, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
So, but it is a privilege. It's not something to be taken lightly, I don't think.
Would you encourage your son to go into that? Would you encourage your son to be a musician if he was at all interested, do you think? Or would you kind of warn him off it?
No, I don't. I would encourage him to do anything that he wanted to try and showed an aptitude for. And with any sort of career, you would just be there and to support. I think there's many argument to say that it's a shaky road to go down as a career, but I don't know what you would choose that wouldn't be. I don't know what is a dead cert these days. I feel really fortunate to feel quite solid in two bands that have regular tours throughout the year, that are periods of time that are chosen. You know what you're going to earn, you know when it is, and the rest of the time I'm at home. Mm-hmm. I feel really fortunate, and I feel happy that I'm in the situation that I am. But anybody that's in a situation that they're happy with their work, whatever that may be, it's usually down to a bit of graft. And I don't mean check me out what a grafter I am.
That's all right. I'm sure you do graft. Like, how much rehearsal would you do to get a new kind of series of gigs or whatever? How much rehearsal would you do to be ready to go and play for however long you play on a night?
Well, gosh, you can never do enough. Like, we spent, for instance, the last time that Blazing Fiddles did an album, we spent a whole week together doing like really in-depth rehearsals. Mm-hmm. And it's about really everybody pulling their weight and putting the time in and putting the practice in, and because you're only as good as your last gig, as the old saying goes. But it's true, because that's the last piece of work that you did. But yeah, I think music's always going to have its ups and downs, but it's just full of great experiences, and you're sort of lucky enough to surround yourself with either friends that you work with or family or just good people, and you're all in a band supporting each other, working towards the same goal. And it doesn't matter if it's Ceilidh band stuff or wedding stuff or corporate stuff, or it just you're still playing your instrument to the best of your ability and maintaining that for your job. So but yeah, I think I would encourage him to do anything that he had an interest in, and music might not come anywhere near that, which is fine as well. You just want your children to be happy.
Yeah, that old chestnut. So
Yeah.
you talk about when you're not working, you can
hmm
just be at home, and does that mean you completely switch off? Does it mean, like, are you guys engaged with kind of social media side of it or anything? So if a listener wanted to connect with you guys as artists, is there somewhere
Uh-huh.
like Twitter or Facebook or wherever they can go, for example?
Absolutely. Yeah. No. When I say I'm at home, I am here, but yeah, there's tons of work to do from social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, updating websites. I do all the posting for Blazing Fiddles orders and for Rant orders. So I'm in the post office most days.
Hmm.
So packaging up all the orders, keeping an eye on stock. You're doing all your own tax returns. You're doing all your own correspondence with two different agents that work with either band. So I'm the point of contact for Rant's agent. So all correspondence goes through me and I take it to the rest of the group, and back and forth it goes. There's all the logistic things that go with planning a concert and or a tour, all the travel that needs booked, all the accommodation that needs booked, all the contracts that you need to go through. When do you arrive at the venue? Are you getting fed? Who's paying for that? Is it does it come out the fee? Are we on a split? Are we on a guarantee? How much is the agent getting paid? How much are the expenses? How much are we going to get taken home? Like there's always a mountain of paperwork to do.
Gee whiz, Jenna, it's lucky it's so good once you're on stage, because that sounds like a nightmare to me. So tell me this then, where can people connect with you guys? Like, is there a Twitter account, for example, or a Facebook,
Yeah,
Instagram? Well, go through them slowly and spell them out if you need to, so that people can connect with you
totally.
guys.
Yeah, so we're at Rant Fiddles. I'm just checking my cell
Well,
now.
you just check and then tell us. So Rant Fiddles, make sure it is .co.uk, and that's the
So that
website.
oh sorry Thor, it's .com.
It is .com after all.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
uh,
What about
yeah,
Twitter? Twitter, Instagram, any of those?
yeah. So I've got my own Twitter handle, which is at Jenna Reid Music.
At Jenna Reid
So
Music, yeah.
and then Rant is at Rant Fiddles, all capitals.
Superb.
And then there's Blazing Fiddles, which on Twitter is at Blazing without a G. Blazing Fiddles. So it's capital B, capital F.
Blazing Fiddles. So is that
Yup.
is that you and Beth? You and Bethany?
No,
No.
that's me plus five other people.
Oh wow, okay.
So so the banner picture on Twitter is the band. Um, there's four fiddles, piano, and guitar, and we're actually at a start tour next week.
Great.
Uh, so yeah, so that's going to be lovely. And then Instagram is I've got my own Instagram, which is Jen the Fiddler, but I'll give you Rant is just Rant Fiddles on Instagram. Blazing Fiddles is all small letters, and it's blazing_fiddles.
Blazing_fiddles on Instagram. Okay.
And then the Facebook pages are Blazing Fiddles. Facebook is amazing, actually. Blazing Fiddles have got, I think, 8,000 followers. So, I mean, I'm not a huge fan personally of Facebook, but it, it's an incredible vehicle for advertising what you do in terms of Blazing Fiddles and Rant, for that matter.
So is it
Um,
just so Rant and Blazing Fiddles are both on Facebook? Cool.
yeah.
Perfect. That's great. Right, before you go then, I've got a question for you that I'm planning to ask everybody. And that
Okay.
is, what would you say is the best advice you could give to someone who was either considering visiting Shetland or, braver still, living there? What advice would you give someone? If a friend of yours came to you in Glasgow and said, I think I'm going to move to Shetland, what advice would you give them? You can have
I
thinking
would,
time. Don't do it!
yeah, I would say go in the spring and get a car, get some wheels, and go in. Don't go there to start off in the winter. Go in the spring when it's busy and the season is just going to kick off with all the events and festivals and food festivals and music. And
What's the top music festival to go to? If someone just had a couple of days they had spare and they were thinking of going to Shetland, what would be the music event to go to, do you think?
I think everybody would say the folk festival.
And when's that? What's the dates of that, do you know? Or does it change every year?
It's largely the last weekend in April into May.
That fits with your spring start to the year then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say if you don't mind the boat, go on the boat and you get the sense of really travelling north. Get yourself a hire car and just go for it.
I love it. Thanks, Jenna. Thank you so much for coming on the Shetland Times podcast.
I hope it's some sense. I don't know.
Loads of sense. Loads of wisdom in there. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jenna Reid, and please head over to shetlandtimes.co.uk or the Facebook page. Suggest folk you'd like to hear us interview here on the podcast. Also, please go to iTunes or SoundCloud, wherever you heard the show, and leave us a review, because it really makes a big difference in terms of people seeing the show on iTunes. Appreciate it. Also, be great to hear your feedback on the interviews in general. You can catch me at Thor Holt on Twitter or via my own site, thorholt.com. That's THORHOLT.com, and you can communicate with me there or head to shetlandtimes.co.uk. See you next time.